Hello and a very good afternoon to one and all present here. Today we are delighted as ABP Education Admission Fair for all of you to be present on our webinar on emerging careers in social science. I would really like to welcome our esteemed panel here. And I would like to start with introducing our moderator for the evening, Mr. Sauraveswar Sen. Mr. Sen is the founder and chief mentor of Catalyst Learning Services. He comes with a decade of experience in training students for competitive entrance exams. Mr. Sen had established Catalyst in 2011, and at the age of 23, he was the youngest trainer delivering sessions at nationally reputed training institutes for GRE, GMAT, IELTS, CLAT, and CAT. He was quick to identify the non-participation of humanities, pure arts students, as well as a lacuna with the application of the tenets of social sciences and professional core opportunities. And he envisaged Catalyst as a bridge to minimize the gap between the prospects in science commerce to that of humanities. Till now, 1,000+ students have been trained at Catalyst to successfully craft a career as human service professionals and are working with multilaterals like UN, UNICEF, WHO, with corporate social responsibility verticals, policy think tanks, national and international grassroots level organizations, and social enterprises. After successfully qualifying for the entrance tests and interviews of bachelor's, master's, MPhil, PhD, fellowship opportunities at leading institutes of social sciences in India and abroad. We welcome you, Mr. Sen, and would request you to take over from here. Thank you so much, and we look forward to an insightful session.
Thank you, Shivangi, for your kind introduction. Social science as a career prospect has witnessed momentous growth over the last decade in India, with a bouquet of universities and colleges and courses being set up to cater to the demands of the market. Like, for example, if I compare 10 years back when I was setting up Catalyst, the number of choices of social science programs for undergraduate or postgraduate admission seekers has grown nearly 3 times, I would say. Technological advancements, better connectivity between people and places, and the need to liberate more communities of social problems to lead a healthy and quality life has rejuvenated subjects like sociology, literature, psychology, political science, economics, environment, history, international relations, and their interrelationships with mathematics, natural science, like biology, physics, and medicine. So to talk more about the interdisciplinary approach of New Age academic program, I'm glad to introduce to all of you Urmi Singh. Urmi Singh is the Senior Director, Career Development Office at Ashoka University. She's responsible for building and maintaining campus relationships and various corporations in the tech, IT, FMCG, and startup space. She comes with 20+ years of extensive experience in customer success, new product launches, and training and development. She has worked across industries, including HUL and Marico. She headed the training division of HUL's network. Urmi has held many pan-India roles across geographies in these organizations, where she was responsible for end-to-end planning and execution of several products, as well as behavioral training. Urmi is now a Senior Director at the Career Development Office of Ashoka University. Urmi, thank you so much for joining us in the discussion. While Urmi will bring out the essence of pursuing liberal arts, Pranshu Singhal, as our co-speaker, will talk about how to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, for which I believe we are barely left with 9 years now, Pranshu, like if I'm not mistaken, till 2030. How student career choices needs to be more socio-environment centric. Pranshu Singhal is the founder of Karo Sambhav, which designs and implements transformative circular solutions of e-waste, plastics waste, and batteries waste. He has worked as Director, Digital Learning Strategy for Microsoft and as Head Sustainability for Nokia. Pranshu is an Aspen Fellow, Ashoka Fellow, a Chevening Fellow, and an Aspire Circle Fellow. He has a master's from IIIEE, Sweden. Pranshu, thank you for your time to be with us to enlighten our students with the paths to innovate forward. So to steer the session forward, what we can do if both Urmi and Pranshu are fine with it is that maybe, I would like to start off with one of the pretty, fundamental questions which students are asking, especially the ones who are looking forward to the evolving space of social science, that right after school, what are the choices that they have in front of them? And to help us understand that, if I may ask Urmi to tell us about the academic programs offered by Ashoka University for the benefit of our students to understand what lies ahead after they finish their school. Over to you, Urmi. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Sauraveswar and ABP, for this wonderful opportunity. And it's really a privilege to be here discussing with students. And I think this is a great initiative, and I'm happy to be here, happy to share as much as I know in the space of social sciences. To answer your question, Sauraveswar, I'll dive deep into it right away. And, I will answer that from a very Ashoka University perspective. So Ashoka University, as you know, is a university of liberal arts and sciences. Now, liberal arts very often is mistaken as humanities or social sciences, but that actually is not the case. The word liberal is, is a methodology of education, of teaching. So the word liberal actually means willing to respect or accept ideas or behaviors or opinions different from my own, different from somebody else, and someone who's open to new ideas. So in Ashoka University, you have liberal arts education, which means social sciences and humanities. Coming to humanities, since this webinar is more focused on humanities and answering your question, what lies ahead for a student of 12th grade? If he comes to Ashoka as an undergrad student, he could pick subjects and major in subjects like history, international relation, economics, English, psychology, sociology, all of that. Or we give a very interesting alternative to students on interdisciplinary majors and minors. So that is what Ashoka is famous for, and that is what Ashoka is trying to drive, to bring in an interdisciplinary perspective in education. For instance, a physics major can do a physics major with a minor in philosophy, or a computer science major or a minor could do a history along with that. So very often, as I have seen from my times, there have been students who are deeply interested in, say, history and also like math a lot. But unfortunately, the Indian education system, you have to drop either history or math and go with pure sciences or pure humanities. Now, in Ashoka, we encourage students to take both if that is what he is interested in. Or if he is not, he could do a pure major in a humanities stream or in sciences. As we're going ahead into the 2021 and 2022, what we are seeing is an interdisciplinary approach is really making students sharper and giving them a holistic perspectives on problem solving. So when you have a problem in hand, you are not just seeing the depth of the problem, but you can also go breadth and then come to a better solution for your organization or for yourself or for your faculty, right? So there's a lot of emphasis on interdisciplinary. And then there is, of course, you can do pure humanity subjects as well. But in Ashoka University, particularly, the first 1.5, 2 semesters is spent doing the foundation courses. Because whatever your stream might be, it might be humanities, it might be sciences, a basic knowledge on a few factors such as communication, critical thinking, uh, problem solving are extremely important. And to have that knowledge and to take that knowledge along with your subject or domain knowledge makes you that much more robust, makes your degree, makes your education that much more robust. So what does a student of 12th grade have to look forward to in terms of humanities? Truckload of things. To sum up, I would say they could go for pure humanities or pure sciences if that's what they're interested in, or go for the interdisciplinary or integrated sort of an education.
Right. Thank you so much, Urmi. I think that was very interesting, a point raised that we have already in our country, as Urmi mentions, a very transdisciplinary approach of your application of interest zones. And I would definitely be someone given an opportunity to go back to school or college, want to blend my love for history and literature or music with that of mathematics. And on top of it, what Urmi also highlights very pertinently is that the problem-solving approach while we acquire knowledge and education. And on that problem-solving approach, if I may come to Pranshu, to firstly understand that if you can share with us through Karo Sambhav, the type of problem that all of you are trying to resolve, and also with that, how you envisage social science as the harbinger of progress, if I may put it in that way, for students to factor in their career choices.
Thank you, Saurav. First of all, thanks to ABP for inviting on this panel. Really delight to interact with the whole range of students. So, to share my view, I'll start with the declaration from UN at the start of this decade. So, UN declared this decade as the decade of change. They have clearly identified that by 2030, if we do not bring in significant changes in the way we produce and consume, then we have lost the battle. We will reach a point where climate crisis would have hit such a point that even adaptation to those to the new situation might be very, very difficult. So if we are to consider the gravity of the situation, and if we look at the recent implications or the recent data sets, what we are finding is that even the most pessimistic scenario did not predict the kind of changes that we are seeing in the climate systems as of now. So with that in mind, what is important is that this generation, people who are just starting their jobs, people who are going for graduation, undergraduation, what kind of role are they going to play? For me, that's a very, very important aspect. And it is not so much related to the fact that what have I studied. It is related to the fact that whatever I have studied, how do I bring in a change? How do I contribute to this change? And how do I become a part of this movement to bring in this shift in how we consume, how do we produce? And one thing which has come up is today, if I were to look at very traditional jobs, they were largely, people were looking at engineering sciences or, STEM-based education was the key. But that we are seeing a very interesting shift. I mean, within Microsoft, for example, when we were hiring, we were looking at very different set of streams. I mean, for a core coding job, I was looking at someone ideally who would have a social science background, because the diversity in thinking is so interesting suddenly that topics that were not even thought of are now being integrated in that mainstream coding. And that's a big change that we have seen in the last decade or so, or 2 decades, that, a big shift from even the largest scale corporations moving from a very core space of going to a top MBA school to going to a top art school, for hiring management consultants. And that is very interesting. And for me, so what we are doing as an organization is this combining of different ways of thinking, different ways of attacking a problem at scale. If you look at how today's systems are designed, in most of the organizations, they would have hundreds of people who are doing R&D, managing supply chains, building a product, putting the product on the market. But if you look at how many people are employed on bringing the elements back, so we have created elements, converted them to components and a product. How many people are employed to do the reverse part, bringing products back to the elemental form, so that we can reutilize them or create a circular economy at scale? You would find hardly any. And so the change that I'm talking, and at least I believe in, is not going to come by just a small set of people. It is all of us in whatever profiles we do. And initiatives like what Urmi mentioned, where cross-disciplinary education is happening, where people are not just focused on one singular thinking, because we are talking of systems-based thinking now. Almost all these systems are interconnected, and unless we understand how pulling in one thing leads to a change on the other end, it will be very difficult to bring a massive change. Climate science is not just about the climate models. It is also about how we as individuals act. It is there is equivalent role of a person and behavioral sciences as compared to how do we model and understand the climate patterns. So I think the approach at Karo Sambhav is more on how do we bring people across different streams in a common organization to drive that systemic change.
Right. I mean, Pranshu, we saw the UN HDR report in 2020, and they called this entire decade to be the age of the Anthropocene. And there has been so much focus on the points that you're citing, that how much are we accountable in terms of also restoring resources and optimizing it. I clearly remember the times while you were working with the sustainability division in some of your campaigns, that how we looked at certain fundamental ways of recycling and reusing our products in our daily lives. Now, a lot of people thought that these are habits that need to be inculcated, but then as we know that we also have the forces of the market, the driving forces of our consumption, that also needs to be equally taken care of. Now, how do we maintain that equilibrium? That is a very interesting space that social sciences opens up in a big way in front of our students. And at Catalyst also, I would say, we are seeing an increasing number of people, as Pranshu mentions, and also as Urmi pointed out, wanting to work at the crossroads of their subjects. Like they are very keen to say research on the impact of climate change on gender.
Yeah.
Right. They are very keen to understand how does the environmental degradation create either a lack of opportunity, or it might be in a latent format, creating a demand towards more localized opportunities that need to be created. So I see a great traction through pursuing liberal arts, through social science, across the different fields where people are wanting to work with aspects of natural resources. They want to see how that connection can be strengthened with the opportunities that lie ahead. There is a renewed, I must admit that there is a renewed sense of spike in interest in agriculture. It has become a trend to imbibe the spirit of technology into agriculture, to bring in the aspects of clean energy into agriculture, to also use agriculture as a method for better representation of communities across. aspects of integrated farming, aspects of, where more gendered representation into farming and techniques are brought in. People are working nowadays, the ones who are comfortable with data, they're using that to such a great extent to create the pitches necessary for also driving investments. So I'll just kind of give you some examples, and we will take again like the next phase through Urmi, that there is a strong sense of requirement, as Pranshu highlights, as Urmi mentions, of people who have that cross-sectional ability to think, whether a coding skill can be effectively used to sustain the opportunities for the disabled, whether coding skills can be used to better train our farmers, to give them a stronger market linkage. So students are really looking into aspects of programs like social entrepreneurship. There are these liberal arts courses, very similar to what Ashoka University offers, coming up in several other places also. I remember places like Christ University, Bangalore, with a cross-section of programs, Tata Institute of Social Sciences. In fact, I must mention on that note that we were supposed to also discuss these points with Professor Shahjahan from TIS Mumbai, who unfortunately could not make it due to a health exigency. So we wish Professor Shahjahan's well-being and a speedy recovery very soon. But just to help all the students understand that after class 12th, your approach towards your subjects and programs can now ride on a lot of the final goals and milestones that both Pranshu as well as Urmi is discussing in this context. That a lot of times the motivational drive towards pursuing programs in social science also lies in the end result. Like, okay, can I make my local community more sustainable than before? We have been under a widespread public health crisis. Pranshu mentions about the behavioral change that needs to be also brought in. So subjects like psychology go a long way in terms of the communication and the development space that helps people to get into the space of an attitudinal change. Many of the government schemes which support our initiatives also demand such socio-behavioral changes, and students pursuing the programs of social science, liberal arts, get exposed to these realities, which is very significant. I'm sure Urmi would like to, add some substance on the type of exposure that people can expect, Urmi, when they get into a liberal arts program at Ashoka University, and also the learning outcomes, if you would like to highlight on that note.
Sure. So what do you expect out of a liberal arts education in Ashoka University? What you can expect is a large spectrum of learning which is extremely diverse. So not just are you picking up education and knowledge from your stream, but you're getting many other opportunities to pick up nuances from other streams to make your experience holistic. The way it is done in Ashoka is that, in a classroom, you could have students from the first year, second year, or third year together. So it's not like all the first years are put together and all the second years are put together. It's a mixed class always, resulting in more diversity and more peer learning. Right. So the thought around it is that we want our classrooms to be more diverse. So diversity is huge over here, and also inclusion. End of your 3 years at Ashoka University, and what is there for a social science student in terms of career? And I represent the Career Development Office of Ashoka University. there are two kinds of aspirations that we have seen at Ashoka from a social science student. A lot of them want to go for higher education, so they straight away go for master's stroke PhD. After, or there are some of them who want corporate kind of jobs. So the ones who want to go for higher education after completing 4 years at Ashoka University, they earn credit of about, say, 126, 27 or so, and they can directly go to do PhD. So they can skip their master's program of 2 years and go for PhD after doing the 4th year of Ashoka University, because they earn by that time that many number of credits as that are required for PhD. So that is something they can do if they study in Ashoka and complete the 4th year. Also, the 4th year students are encouraged to do PhD because in the 4th year, they are doing a lot of thesis work or capstone projects. So when you are applying for your PhDs, you already have work to show in your application that you have done your thesis work, and so you're eligible for a PhD program. Now, that is one kind of student. And the other kind, they have different aspirations. They want to join a corporate organization. Now, these corporations could be of all kinds. Ashoka being a diverse institution, the aspirations therefore are also diverse. So they could be the big giants like Microsoft, Google, etc., or HUL. Or they could be think tanks, they could be non-profit, they could be the development sector, etc. So it really ranges. Now, you may want to ask, so what would us economic students, for instance, do in Microsoft? Well, plenty. We had a job description last year from Microsoft where they were launching a financial rotation program, and they needed students from economics or finance background. So all our economic students fitted in very well. Economic students also fit in very well in any organization, be it large or small or startup, in roles that are analytics in nature. And nowadays, every organization, they need analytics, right? So economic students fit in very well over there. The piece that I mentioned before on the foundation courses, where we do rigorous training on communication skills, problem solving, etc. Now, the consulting firms, when you're doing a business analysis, they are looking at students who are strong in communication, who are strong in analytical thinking. So you may be from any stream, you may be a philosophy major or a psychology major, but if consulting is your dream, then you have an option there. Very often, the consulting organizations have picked up someone from maybe philosophy major, maybe economics major or English major. That doesn't matter, as long as you can think in a problem-solving manner, in a critical manner, and communicate well, and you have the knowledge of your undergrad program, you're good to go. So a lot of our English major are doing jobs that are very different or from mainstream English graduates, and that is that of content writing. Every organization, Saurav, need a content writer these days, especially in the startup space or in the e-commerce space. So all the Swiggies and the Zomatos of the world, they need content writer, and our English graduates do very, very well in that. Then we have some very niche roles that are, given to students such as from, say, history major. Now, they have opportunities in museums. They have opportunity in doing, of course, research work. And they also, if the aspiration is to join the corporate sector, then we are happy to take those applications forward. And they do join. Many of them, after doing 3 years of history, realize that, okay, now I want to little bit dabble around the corporate world. So they do that. There is no one role for the social science students. There are many, and the number of organizations that come to hire them are many. And it's very heartwarming to see how a social science graduate is now fitting into a very tech world and a non-tech world, into a completely for-profit organization and a non-for-profit organization. Policy, for instance, is a huge space where our pol science students fit in. And all the corporate giants, as we know, like maybe like a Google or a Twitter, they want people who understand policy. So that is another area where our students fit in very well. Interestingly, and this is very, I feel very proud to say this, because there is a lot of training in communication and problem solving. Our students do very well in roles that involves strategy. So you would be surprised to know that they do very well in executive assistant role. So you have the CEO there, and for a long time, our student was the executive assistant to the CEO founder of Make My Trip. So because they can think strategically and they can communicate well. So those skills, again, come very useful for that kind of a role. But if you're really looking at your, how to use your core social science knowledge into a job space. To give you an example, a psychology student would fit in very well in marketing and sales, because that's to understand consumer behavior. They understand all of that and they put it into their workspace. So the social science students are doing very, very well, getting a lot of opportunity in almost every sector that I can think of, including media, since this is getting hosted by ABP. Media space is another one, script writing is another one. So there is no end to opportunities and scope.
Wow, thank you. I mean, talking of course, we all are aware of the policy regulations coming into the space of Twitter and Facebook, and quite naturally that demanding more skill alignment, I would say.
Right.
Pranshu, imagine that you went to hire students from an Ashoka University. If you can share with us then the type of skills that you are looking forward to people whom you want to work in the space that you are in, so that students who are wanting to take up these courses can also have a projection ahead of the type of skills they need to acquire to start working.
If you're talking of jobs of today, I mean, we also need to realize that the jobs of the future are not the jobs of today. The exponential change that we are now evidencing in the nature of the jobs is just crazy. I mean, just 5 years back, while I was heading digital learning at Microsoft, we used to talk of the future of the jobs and what kind of jobs would exist 10 years, 15 years down the line. And the quantum of change that we are now evidencing is so much more, just because of, I would say, cross-disciplinary nature of work which is happening. It's just that cross-fertilization which is giving birth to so many. If you just look at the startups, I mean, you wouldn't imagine that isme bhi startup ho sakta hai kya? For the smallest, tiniest thing, like a food delivery app, Zomato becoming, one of the biggest companies to be listed today on the stock exchange. I mean, who would have imagined ye khana pakdane wala? I mean, this is like a dabba wala job equivalent, that this is the future of jobs. And look at the kind of variety of jobs that exist in that organization. So the first of all, what we need to understand is, am I preparing myself from my education that whatever unpredictable job comes in the future, I'm ready for it. So it's the readiness aspect, which essentially for me is a function of, to a very large extent, critical thinking. Am I able to think critically? Because if I'm able to think critically, and if my education is enabling me to think critically, if it has, and a lot of critical thinking for me emerges from cross-disciplinary work, where, I love the fact that, for example, Urmi mentioned that people of all age groups are working together in a classroom, because how many workplaces have you seen jahan pe, ek age group ke log ek sath kaam karte hain, dusre age group ke? So, we need to look at our educational systems designed in a way that they kind of fit what the jobs would be. If they don't, then sorry, we are wasting those 4 years. I wasted my 4 years, in engineering. If I were to really retrospect, what did I learn apart from, certain basics, but not. And if I look at the education systems of today, I think the fact that so much cross-disciplinary discussions are happening, I think that's the route to change, and that is the route to also being future ready. So the aspect of critical thinking and collaboration. So if I were to hire any person, so let's say Karo Sambhav is today at the forefront of developing circular systems in the country. So our clients, for example, include all types of organizations from Apple to a Dell to a Xiaomi to a Vivo to a Ericsson, to a Coca-Cola and a Pepsi. Now, circular economy jobs have not existed in the past. I mean, no one knows what is circular economy, or this is something which has to be debated and integrated across the value chains. Now, that can only happen when people are able to think. So, and one of the most important things for us to realize is that the jobs of the future will always be thinking jobs, because you have to create and recreate and then again create. So until unless the education is enabling us to do that, we will be at a loss, because understanding of certain subject matter will change. I mean, the pace at which our understanding of physics is changing, not the basics, but how the application, I'm really talking more about application in all my discussions, is at a very, very rapid pace. So if I go to any of the universities of, today, for example, one of the big challenges that we face is कि अगर circular economy के लिए hire करे तो कहाँ से करे? For us, all students are more or less alike. It doesn't matter if the person is having an international degree, or if you come at Karo Sambhav, you will find people from who have had degrees from some very good institutes like LSE in UK, to someone from TERI, to someone who has just done a bachelor's degree from a completely unknown college, but they're all performing at the same level. Why? Because of the ability to think, something, and that ability to think is, while education can spur certain thinkings, I think you will have to very consciously as students, develop it, because that is the only thing that will give you an edge tomorrow. At least that is how I have read in the last 5-7 years of my working life, that these are the kind of people who are growing and these are the people who are not growing. So it is that critical thinking, and I would also bring in collaboration to a very large extent. But critical thinking for me comes at the forefront.
Right. I mean, I'm glad that, Pranshu, you are visiting campuses like TERI and similar places, because I was just about to cite examples of the programs in sustainability that are offered by these places. There are also undergraduate programs, I must mention at this juncture, for the benefit of our students, offered by places like Xavier's University, Bhubaneswar. They have programs like Bachelors in Sustainability. So right after school, you can actually start off with a bachelor's in sustainability and sustainable management, which is also becoming a very important aspect of the requirement, as cited by both Urmi and Pranshu. Critical thinking, students, please make a note, is what definitely a prospective recruiter in Karo Sambhav puts it right on the pedestal. And if I use a little bit of my sensories of critical thinking, I just remember that last night my wife cited that today happens to be National Handloom Day, and which is basically meant to, talk of and celebrate handloom as one of not just our pride, but also a big prospect in our country. I am trying my ability to think and connect and remember some of our past students from social science who are working, say, for example, with enterprises like Threadcraft Lucknow. And I would like to mention them in the context that Threadcraft Lucknow, they are into a lot of weaving and handloom, as well as, intricate chicken curry work from the Lucknow space. The interesting part about the venture is that all the weavers under Threadcraft Lucknow, they undergo a regular eye checkup in collaboration with, I think, a partnered, healthcare facility. Because as Pranshu mentions, that number one is the critical thinking ability to create a venture which will get more, create more leverage of our production to the people. The second is maybe collaboration. And if a collaboration helps in to restore the eyesight of the very skilled workers and the craftsmen, person at that organization, it actually helps them to sustain much, much longer with their produce. It also enables me to think and highlight of similar organization in, say, even cargo. They are based in Delhi, and if some of the people might be knowing that they work in the space of bringing in more women to join the e-commerce delivery services. So again, like these innovations are all some way related to your understanding of psychology, gender, the arts, the humanities, social problems. So many of those are taught at, in a liberal arts program at Ashoka University. Just to, again, give the students a little bit of understanding of the type of, I would say, salary structures which we have noticed in the recent past. It is actually a very, very broad spectrum. But since many of the questions that were asked to us, prior to the session was related to the type of, opportunities that students can get, and also, talk about the salary structures, I would like to take the liberty to say that undergrad students graduating from these colleges of liberal arts, social science, and wanting to work, the salaries do account for a lot of their skills and the type of work that they are wanting to do. On an average, what we have seen, if I give you like a statistical understanding, on an average, students start off working from 30 to 35,000 rupees per month on a scale, with the different roles, and it goes up. It goes up, and the more, as Pranshu mentions, you're able to apply, your ability to innovate, your ability to intervene, and also to collaborate, quite naturally, the returns are also, strong. So on that note, I would like to, open our discussion a little bit to the questions that the audiences are asking, or if I would request Urmi or Pranshu to cite any more points which you might like to mention at this juncture.
One point I think I forgot to mention is,
Sure.
For any student, social science or not, they must take on as many internships as possible when they are going from 12th standard to first year to second to third, to finally land the job of their dreams. Because it's only when they're experiencing different organizations, different role and different sector, that they understand where lies their areas of interest and passion, and how to map that with their education. So it's extremely important that, internships are taken. You were just talking about salaries. Salaries are, if the student is good, sky is the limit.
True.
A median salary for a 4-year undergrad, the 4th year student in Ashoka, the median salary is 10.5 lakhs. And I'm talking of the median. The highest could be anything. This year, Google has taken a student for 33 lakhs per annum, undergrad student. So the sky is the limit. Internships stipends are growing. This year, one of our students has gone to do an internship in her 3rd year to 4th year summers with a stipend of 1.5 lakhs per month. So the monies students will get, that's not the thing, but they must find out what is the true calling. And by doing internship, a lot of those ambiguities that they have in their mind, that gets sorted. I just thought I'll add that.
Perfect. I think that's, again, very, very inspiring and motivating to know some numbers that Urmi highlights, to add to the fervor of pursuing social science as a career opportunity. I would like to maybe request Pranshu if you have anything in addition to add. Yeah,
just a small point. I'm just thinking of my own self when I was a student.
Right.
At that point in time, salaries looked like the biggest deal, honestly. But believe me, it is not. What is more important at any point in time, especially at that very young age, because is your ability to grasp and your ability to contribute to whatever you are pursuing. So at any point in time, would have always asked people who have worked with me or are working with me, are you really enjoying what you're doing? Are you able to make a significant difference? Are you able to evaluate multiple scenarios in which the same thing can be done in different ways? And if not, then probably the job is not for you. It may be paying you whatever, but it's not worth it, because you may start with, let's say, 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs, but your limit is also then 20 lakhs if that growth is not happening. And you may want to start with a 6,000 rupees a month, but grow to 60 lakhs in 5 years. And what learning in that is in that 6,000 is more critical for me. So I would really urge to, and it becomes very difficult. What I am sounding is a lot theoretical, and very difficult to put in practice. But if for the first few years, if you can just focus on what is it that I am gaining every single day and evaluate at the end of the day, am I creating value? And if I am not, then sorry, it's a waste of my time. What it may be paying whatever. And you may feel, some of the best students, some of the best outstanding people have become, I would say, not lose their ability to create, lose their ability to think because of the kind of job that they get in. Because the satisfaction is about the salary and not about the daily challenges. So problems are good. Love the problems in the first few years. The more difficult challenges you are handling, the more fights you are having in your job, the better you are. So because that is what prepares you.
Very well put through, Pranshu. Thank you for highlighting the aspect that, we all have to find meaning in our work. Possibly once the meaning is strong, as Pranshu mentions, the other M, which could be money, that will follow.
Yeah, money should always follow. I mean, if you go for money, then it will never follow. It's something which is always a byproduct, not a product.
Very, very true. And, it also enables me to think that somewhere we also see that as we grow with our age and with time, our levels of curiosity also, in a lot of times, it kind of reduces. I don't know, whether all of you have observed that. And this curiosity essentially reduces, as you highlighted, that, we look at very specific quantified milestones that we are possibly trying to gain in terms of maybe a remuneration. So yes, I think the discussion of money is always important when it comes to the career prospect. And I'm glad that we are discussing it very freely. I would like to raise a question which I've received from the audience. If Pranshu or maybe Urmi would like to take it up, or even I can, try and support the answer. We have a question from the audience about when it comes to social science, if you would be able to cite few examples of specific opportunities, which you might have seen, there is an uptick or there is a trend in the type of roles or designations which are coming through more. Urmi, Pranshu, is there anything that caught your attention which is significantly, I would say, higher in terms of demand of roles?
I would say, and Urmi did mention it in the beginning, almost all analyst roles, where you want to apply thinking. I would always prefer a person with cross-disciplinary education. And so social sciences background fits extremely well today in that space. One can always hire a person with let's say a BBA degree or an economics background, but there I always found that the thinking has been thoroughly narrowed in a specific subject matter. And so for me, what always works is this varied understanding of different subjects and that ability to collate, because majority of the jobs, unless we are going into a manufacturing industry, which is, or a very traditional industry, majority of the jobs would require this ability to comprehend, ability to make sense out of chaos. And this is where, a lot of analyst sort of roles come into being.
And like I mentioned earlier, content roles are also huge, and there's a lot of demand on content. Analysts of all kinds, so research analysts, you could be a researcher, so that kind of analysts also. Management trainee, a lot of organizations are now open to take undergrads or graduates with social science background as management trainees. So there are a lot of roles that are available for social science students and across industries.
True, absolutely. Even I think that the trend that I have observed is people who can make better sense of data and use data to better lives, if I may put it in that way. There are these cross-sectional application of data across public policy, even in a lot of roles across environment. I see so many graduates working with data at very, very localized, I would say, formats of governance, including local administration, panchayats, and so on and so forth. Talking about a government, Urmi or Pranshu, it's open to you both. We also have a question where students are asking us that the scope of working with the government after pursuing courses in social science, if you would like to highlight that.
Yes. So again, I'm giving you examples from Ashoka because that's what comes to my mind first.
Right.
And I'm sure it's across universities. It's nothing Ashoka specific. A lot of our students work in offices of ministers. So we have students working in office of Shashi Tharoor. We have students who work for, smaller offices of different political parties. We even have a student who has a political party of his own at a young age of 21. He's based out of Bangalore. He has the education of Ashoka. He has majored in economics and finance. And his aim is to build a better Bangalore city. And he is doing a lot of grassroots level work in preparing the city for a better tomorrow in terms of infrastructure, education, health, etc. So there is a lot of scope in government also. A lot of people work for the tech part of the government wing. So they help them in making in processes like Aadhaar card, etc. So the tech part of government also, a lot of our students go, but of course those are the science students. But from social sciences, there is a lot of opportunity within the government. You won't be a minister, but you'll work for a minister's office.
Right.
Also, organizations like Invest India takes a lot of people.
Right. Of
So NIAS takes a lot of people from Ashoka.
Yes. Yeah. Pranshu, you would also like to conquer that you need people in the government who would advocate for circular economy. You're on mute.
Yeah, so not just circular economy, in general, I think a lot of analysis work, a lot of data crunching, a lot of understanding different patterns. I see a lot of people today, very young people who end up, and again, they're not necessarily on government payrolls, they may be on roles of any of the big four companies, but supporting government entities. So that's a very big trend that I see. People employed by some of the other consulting firms, it could be the large four or maybe someone else, but then supporting government directors, sometimes ministers, secretary offices. So that's fairly common.
Right.
Absolutely. And civil services is always an opportunity.
True. I mean, even extending to those examples, like there are people who start working as young professionals, I would say, with the SRLMs, the State Rural Livelihood Mission, the NRLMs, the National Rural Livelihood Mission. We see a lot of students getting inducted in by the Smart City Mission under the state development authorities. And some of the states, as we know, they are really putting that to the forefront in terms of recruitment and new professionals who are working in that space. The COVID-19 crisis also has thrown up the demand for public health professionals, health administrators who are required, for the distribution like vaccines, for, better understanding about the health systems. There is definitely attraction towards people working in the space as social epidemiologists, who can get into the socio-behavioral aspect of disease control. So governments are, becoming more pro towards taking in people who realize and understand the fabric of the society really well. I think one final question which we would take, because we are closing in towards the time that were allotted to us. I think I would ask this to Urmi first, that specific to the pandemic, which has been with us, at least in India, say since March 2020, officially, if I may use that timeline, till now. And of course, like that young minds finishing off school, or at the cusp of school and college and beyond, and looking forward towards achieving their career aspiration. Urmi, I would like to help all of us understand, like, being from Ashoka University, how do you see in the types of adaptability which students might want to factor in for the upcoming days? And if you would like to share some basic, maybe inspiration points of people at this juncture equally concerned, maybe in some way, of whether to go out of their house, go to a new city, to a new place. How do they go ahead with getting into a cloud campus with their academic sessions online? What would you like to share some of the conditioning points for our young audience from your end?
Sure. Of course, being on campus and doing the courses from campus face-to-face in that vibrant environment is the best scenario. But unfortunately, COVID had hit all of us. And you're rightly said, from March of 2020, when our students packed up their bags to come for a midterm break in March, which is what they get usually. I remember students telling, end of this week, we're back to campus. And that never happened, right? So it is very unfortunate. However, students being students and young minds being young minds, they have adapted well. I would say that they had no choice. Was that easy? Well, not really. Did we see students facing problems, facing maybe some of them mental health problems? Yes, we did. We at Ashoka have a center for well-being, which is very robust, and we have handled it. But it's not the trend. It's certainly not the trend. Some students were, but most of them have adapted very well. Our classes have all happened online. In fact, if in between the campus had opened, but the classes stayed online because we cannot mandate going back to campus at such a point. So some of them choose not to go, some of them choose to go. So the classes, regardless whether they're on campus or not, stays online. In terms of adaptability, I would say pretty well, with a few cases here and there. In terms of career development office, which I represent, we've had a fantastic track record. In fact, we've had a bit of an advantage because there have been a lot of smaller organizations who earlier, before COVID times, could not reach campus, maybe because of geography or lack of time or whatever. Now for us, we can reach out to a lot of organizations who are otherwise able to come to campus and take a look at campus and select our students. So everything's happening online, right? So for someone in South India to reach Sonipat, if it's an issue, no problem, we'll do it online. And so in that sense, there has been a better reach. Coming to should students students pack their bags, go to a new location, start their job. It really depends on what the situation is. I just hope all students stay safe, and that is most important. And take a call if you think that things are moving pretty okay and this is a good time to move, then move. But of course, safety first, always.
Thank you. I think that's a pretty important silver lining in terms of geography not playing a major role that Urmi highlights in terms of the opportunities that Ashoka University has untapped even during the times of the pandemic. Pranshu, any perspectives from your end on that note?
Yeah, so COVID has been a difficult period for all of us, and but again, while there have been challenges, it has also given us so many learnings which we need to carry through. So, for example, today we don't intend to open any more offices. We have figured out how do we collaborate in a much better way. So while physical touch and feel is super important, there are times when you can manage without it, and there are times when you have to have that physical touch and contact with people. So I think, how do we carry the learnings? Because some of the COVID learnings are also very important from a climate change perspective. The ability to, why do I have to fly and meet a client all the time when I can manage the same meetings? I mean, nothing has changed. I mean, our ability to deliver remains the same. Yes, there needs to be some level of dialogue, but we have had some very fundamental shifts. And the good news is that a lot of organizations and institutions are today adapting to this new age because they're also finding it is beneficial, not just from a, let's say, climate point of view, but also from a financial point of view. We are significantly better off. And quality of life. Today, for example, even when we can, run a full-time office, we are asking people to only come maybe 1 or 2 days a week. One is the safety aspect, but the second is also that, so much time is getting wasted in terms of traveling. Why waste that 2 hours? If that could be converted to better quality of life, even if half the time is devoted for office and half the time for doing whatever one does at home, then we are better off at both the ends. So I think while COVID has been, has got so difficult times, it has also given a lot of new learnings for all of us. And how do we utilize them and build them build on them as we go forward will be very, very important.
Wow, I think that was literally like a sneak peek into the future of workplace, with Pranshu highlighting how an organization is optimizing resources better, and the outcome is the overall improvement in the quality of life. It also allows me to remember, like last year, one of our former fellows from Catalyst with a background of social science, political science and public policy, to be precise, realized the inaccessibility of menstrual health and hygiene in rural parts of our country. And very interestingly, what she did was she was working with an organization in the space of education, but she shifted from that and became like a social entrepreneur, starting off a project called the Lali Project, and wanting to promote the understanding of period education to adolescent girls, especially within the vulnerable communities. And it was very heartening to see from our end that the same time when the lockdowns were on and the young people, they were quite concerned about how do they move forward, we had someone like Shomo Ponna taking the lead by starting off the Lali project as a venture, because she saw through her work in the space of education that due to the lockdown, due to maybe the lack of distribution of sanitary napkins across the interior parts of our country, there was a sort of an embargo and also lack of access of menstrual products, for which her venture was important to be created. So I think the space of innovation, as both Urmi and Pranshu points out, is also very strong. People are looking to connect challenges with opportunities, challenges with ideas. And I think that is exactly what social science has also evolved as a discipline, if I may put it in that way. That it's just not about studying and pursuing subjects that we were citing. It's so much about the application of the domain into our problems, into our realities, into stronger representation, into understanding of climate change, creating what we apparently think as waste products into opportunity, like bringing it back. Like we talk of social science, we talk of social work, which revolves so much on giving back to the society. Pranshu highlights the entire philosophy of taking back also from the society. I remember the entire legislation by the government on the extended producer responsibility, which basically requires organizations to have an audit of how much of the products that they created are being reutilized, and they are brought back to the elemental form, which Pranshu mentions. I think that is one of the strong takebacks, which also the liberal arts program from Ashoka University truly celebrates. And we would love to end this session today by not only thanking ABP Education for creating an opportunity to talk of social science as a new age career, but also thanking our audience in our students, right, who chose to come and listen and also consider the discussion to be as points of their career choices to move forward ahead. I would like to then thank ABP Education, Anandabazar, Patrika, the Telegraph group, the entire team for organizing this session. We will definitely want to see the scope of doing more in this space. This could just be the start of it. And thank you so much, both Urmi and Pranshu, to take out your time, be with us, share your insights, connect with students, young minds, germinate, the seed of ideas, innovation, empathy, the understanding of application, cross-sectional knowledge, to have a more sustainable future in our coming days. I'm Sauraveswar Sen, and thanking all of you once more for being with us in the session.